Legend of the Galactic Heroes. I tried very hard to find some negative reviews, you know, and basically calling this series overrated because I mean some people say that this is the best anime ever made of all time or something. Um,
It's. I'm just gonna answer that now. It's not. Like, it's the most epic and grand in scale anime, or at least one of them, and it's also one of the most consistent. Uh, but if we're talking about, like, I don't know, comparing it with, let's just grab Evangelion just because I'm thinking of it. Like, it's never quite reaching the pathos of a show like that or some other anime that you're thinking of, and that's like someone considers the best ever, whatever.
yeah, I guess like when I think of the sort of anime which I would regard as the best ever, basically like Eva or whatever, they tend to be like um they have tend to be more personal, let's say. It's more about
Mm.
individual an individual character or something. Whereas here it's a lot more about the setting and the themes, I guess. Um, I don't know if that is what you think. Um, so when it comes to the complaints which people had, one of that was that this was boring, which they're wrong about that. So there's no need to discuss that.
I
Uh,
mean, have they not seen like the episodes of like the Rosen Ritter? I mean, those guys literally like chainsaw through shit like it's
Mm.
Doom. Like it's pretty like metal.
the
Well,
other, th- yeah, yeah.
I watched this a number of months ago with someone who had never seen this before, actually never heard of it somehow. Um, and basically, his takeaway that he oftentimes went with, and I think this is somewhat true, is the show can get boring, at least in the first season. And the main reason for it is that it can feel too predictable because you've got two main characters. You've got Reinhard and you've got Yang Wenhui. And in the context of the first season, they're almost Gary Stews. And you know they're going to succeed at whatever they do. You know that whoever is going against them is probably a little foolish and is going to come out looking foolish. And it can make everything feel very predictable.
Yeah, yeah, that is exactly the other complaint which I saw in the negative reviews that they thought that I found it a bit funny that they called I think it's the top mixed review on Mal and they called Reinhardt and Yang Wenli Mary Sue's and
I mean, in a way, they kind of are, but
Yes.
aren't most people who are famous in history kind of Mary Sueish, right? Like, you have these people in real life who are kind of larger than life. Like,
And I mean, to be fair to the show, it's not as if the show isn't setting up character flaws inside them. You
yeah,
Yang is
exactly.
like a layabout who doesn't want to be doing this all, but he's being forced to do it all. And Reinhard is this ambitious guy who, nevertheless, is like
yeah,
really only close with his sister and his best friend.
yeah,
And his does have the show doesn't emphasize it much, but he has the show is trying to set up the idea that his ambition will be his downfall.
yeah, and even in season one, I think that they both do mess up a little bit. Like Young Wenli gets constantly used by Job Trunicht, and
Best
Oh
character,
yeah,
by the way.
Yeah.
he gets one upped politically a whole lot. There is his famous speech, though it went well. Fighting for democracy, everyone, let's fight so we don't die.
uh,
Yes.
and Reinhardt, on the other hand, is unable to save someone, let's say. Um,
Well,
uh,
it's not only that, it's also not sure if it happens in the first or second season, but after Kirihai's death, and Rose not really so much abandons him, but just goes, "Okay, Reinhardt, you're kind of on your own. You can contact me if you need me, but you're kind of on
Yeah,
your own."
I mean,
Yeah,
that's a very interesting story point, and this is still in the first season, in the first 26 episodes.
I thought that was
Um,
incredibly cold-hearted of her.
yeah, but I've got a theory though. I think Oberstein spoke to Anna Rose and actually asked her to distance herself. Um, I think I think there's
I,
certain hints
yeah, I'm pretty sure
in the
that
episodes.
that's implied that's what happened because it was Oberstein who
You know, that's a
yeah.
that's a great quote you can say for the entire show. It was Oberstein. Like he's doing stuff.
Oberstein's behind it all.
Well, you could also make the argument that she did
The
it kind of.
Kaiser's dead. Oh, probably an Oberstein moment.
Well, you
Yeah,
could also make the argument that she kind of did this to indirectly protect him because,
yeah. Oh,
considering that they're directly family related, I mean,
so
if
in terms of historical characters, or whatever, it's weird to call them characters, but I read. Well, it's been a while, but I read um, a, a biography about Alexander Hamilton and about how he was basically manipulating everything behind,
Mhm.
Washington, and how the people on the other side thought that he was corrupting George Washington and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, so you could say Oberstein is a similar kind of character. And
Oh fuck
Yes.
yes.
and again, with Hamilton, the people who support Hamilton say that, well, the things which Hamilton did were necessary, like making them set up a central bank and etc. And all that, even though it was cold-hearted and whatnot, and going against the ideals and whatnot.
I mean,
Um,
here's the thing. Throughout the entire show, was Oberstein ever actually wrong? I don't think so.
Well,
I
yes,
don't know,
the show is very much on Oberstein's side. It very much believes that like whatever is like the most effective short-term solution is like what should be used. Like it doesn't have you've got characters who believe in honor and stuff like that, but the show itself does not believe in those things.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
base.
in fact, it's kind of like the opposite. Like honor and shit gets you killed quicker.
Yeah, or rather, it's more like um, it's basically the things which Venli says and implies about like war just being bad and there's no honor in it, etc.,
Hmm.
etc., whatever. Um, in the end, yeah,
yeah. Even in this being said, though, Oberstein is is sort of presented as like the shadow, and Kirkios is like the light, right? And there's two sort of sides of Reinhardt. Um, so like even like, I also think Oberstein it's kind of they do a good job of making him seem like this very dangerous person, and they kind of say that he's basically dangerous because of his birth defect, right? His birth defect makes him sort of loyal to Reinhard, or makes him um use of Reinhard as a way of survival, right? But it also makes it's impossible for him to be pro a Golden Burn dynasty, right?
yeah. I guess
Um,
you could make a
Yeah,
bioluminescent
because
point.
the yeah, like because the interesting thing about Oberstein, right, is that like he's an incredibly talented guy, but he knows that he really doesn't have the charisma or the force of will that Reinhardt does to rule. So in a way, he kind of uses Reinhardt's authority to get what he wants.
Yeah, you can compare it to like any group, especially like let's say in the Ancien regime in France, like let's say Protestants that just got tolerated or whatever. Huguenots. They are naturally going to lean towards whatever is the more left wing and revolutionary uh, government at the time, or whatever's more likely to upset things, upset the apple cart, because their status there is still very insecure, and they could get kicked out of there still. So anyone who's like threatening to level the playing field in any way, they're going to be natural allies. And you see that as like that's an issue for empires like that happened with the Russian Empire too. Uh, all these marginal peoples, Estonians, Latvians, and others who shall not be named, were all the ones supporting the revolutionary movements.
Yeah. Um. Okay. I guess season one was basically Oberstein's season. While
Yeah, it's Oberstein was always right. Like
Yes.
he just can't keep on getting away with this. Like he just can't stop being right all the time.
yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
They hate him because he
yeah,
said the truth.
I guess he kind of
Yeah, basically.
They hate him because he told the truth.
it's very
I think there's like a meme clip where he like in the third season interrupts like Reinhardt's wedding and he says like I have an announcement, I'm autistic.
yeah, he
No,
does like
that's that's a fake screen cap.
I know, but it's funny.
So it's real.
yeah, he does interrupt the wedding though if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Actually, I'm curious. Like, who are your guys' like favorite characters?
Oh fuck.
Royenthal.
Okay, Walter von Schwankop was one of them. Dusty's another one, at least for the Free Planet side. Empire. I like Mittenmeyer and I'm gonna have to go with Reinhard and yeah, and also Yang Li. They're pretty good. And Oberstein.
Yeah, Oberstein.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I guess for me, my favorite would be on the Free Planet side would be Walter Dustin. I really like a bit of Poplin. On the Galactic Empire, mine would be Runefall, Oberstein, and Reinhardt. Mittermeier, I didn't really like that much. Didn't really have that much of a defining character in my opinion, but it was okay.
He's mostly the nice, upstanding admiral who's the guy who Royenthal can always lean on, and he's the one. Especially after certain events, he's like basically the heart of the empire who can really be relied on to do the right thing to clear out uh, these corrupt bureaucrats and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I
Yeah,
really like Walter from the Free Planet side because the guy's just like Giga Chad levels of based.
Yeah. I liked
Like I
Walter.
don't think there's like a single episode that does him dirty. Like it's just like based.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Shenkop, the leader of the Rotten Ritter. Yeah, I mean, like he's like incredibly based. Also, I generally think he wins every argument he has against Gang Medley as well. So
Yeah, just like Oberstein, always right. Like he just can't keep
Yes.
on getting away with this.
yeah.
yeah. On
Shenkop
the
is interest. He's the type of character who, like, the way he talks, the way he acts, you can tell he's an Imperial throwback, and he doesn't entirely fit inside like the Free Planets Alliance and its structure. He's almost like a little boost of vitality straight into the rotting free planets. Yet, uh, he's never for a second disloyal, and he never for a second considers like joining what his father's side would have been or something like that. Though I have to admit a lot of that is probably personal loyalty to Yang Wenli once
Yes.
he starts getting under his command.
Yeah. Also, as for the
Yeah,
Empire side, this like Fahrenheit guy is also like pretty based. I'm not gonna lie here.
I mean, the other great thing, there's a lot of interesting things about the characters, and what I like about Yang Wenli is how he's the type of character who's just can be blindly trusting, or he seems that way. But if he like in his first bit where he's using Walter von Schenkop, no one else really trusts this guy because he's some imperial guy. His kids were his father was an imperial. Who knows if he can trust this guy? He
Yeah, he
seems to be
comes
a
from
bit
a
of
military unit
renegade.
that has a very bad reputation, the Rosen Ritter.
Yeah, yeah. And Yang's just like, well, I saw him defend a young lady from this bunch of scum once, and I'm totally dependent on them, so I'm not going to doubt them. And Yang just has this like earnestness to them, where it is almost naive, and sometimes it is too naive, and it can get him in trouble. But at the same time, like he can understand in moments like that. I just have to hope for the best, and like wooing or trying to interrogate these people and just driving them away is going to do me no good.
Um,
Like this isn't like fucking Byzantine emperor that that like puts rock passes in the way of the Crusaders to like slow them down so they can't uh, get to the capital faster, and then they won't sack their city. It's these aren't like that levels of like wishy-washiness, insulting and then being nice, which
Mm.
just
yeah,
I mean, there's like sometimes where I think Yang Li also does that to also lure people into a sense of false security. Like during the rebellion shit in the first season, where that guy pulled a gun out at him, he was like completely chill, and then and then the guy turns around him and he sees that Julian's got a gun pointed at his head. Like
Yeah,
I
that's
do
pretty
think
good.
Yang Li is a. I think some of his naivete might also be part of him luring people into a false sense of security.
I
Yeah,
view it
it's like
more
it.
as his people around him are going to step in, but I don't view that as much as a characteristic of himself.
Yeah, it's like a irresponsible Captain Tyler situation. You know,
Oh,
is the Tyler actually like incompetent, or is he actually a super genius? And we can say
I'm
the
leaning
same
with
thing.
Super Genius.
No,
Yeah,
Tyler's
exactly. I'm firmly on the super genius
I
side.
doubt it. Okay.
Listen, he is the next Napoleon the Third or Napoleon in
Mm.
space.
yes.
I'm joking, but
Maybe not.
Maybe
Um,
not.
Okay, the other thing to note about this show is a lot of these characters can be very one note. And there's an episode where around the time where we're dealing with Commodore Fork, he's voiced by Amuro Ray, and he's 100% in favor of like invading the Empire. And this guy is a dumbass. This guy is a
yes.
parody of the Imperial Japanese Army and the optimistic ways they delved into the war against America. I guess more the IJM and the IJA. And there's like one of these episodes where it's like 7 minutes devoted to like showing Fork is a dumbass. Fork is a dumbass. Fork is a dumbass.
He's
And
gonna get us all killed.
yeah, yeah, and you can take it in two ways. You can like be amused at watching this guy kind of squirm. Uh, but I can also see someone who just turns out, okay, we get it, we get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that people like that don't exist,
The
but it's
like
not very
here's the thing.
entertaining.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
not very entertaining, but however, it is actually quite a bit realistic because I actually have talked to people in like military service before, and literally people like Lieutenant Falk, whatever the fuck his name is, those types of people actually exist in the military, and a
Oh
lot of the times
yes.
they are in like high positions.
Yeah, I
Like
believe that.
I've literally heard stories. I'm not gonna go into too much details, but like there was a story of a guy, an experienced commander, and he basically almost got the squad he was commanding killed. He panicked and almost got this guy. This guy was telling me the story, right? But he almost got his like entire squad like killed
Hmm.
and shit.
Mm, mm.
So people like Falk being in the military and in some position of command,
Oh yeah.
like it's not unrealistic at all. Like these people actually exist, and I have
Yeah.
anecdotal evidence to support this.
Well, not only that, I know there's the other complaint where it's just, oh, you present the main characters as hyper incompetent, whereas everyone else is just dumbasses. I mean, that is somewhat valid, but at the same time, there are dumbass commanders.
Yeah, no, the show actually does a very good job of all the commanders that like get shown up in some ways. They always have a good reason for what they're doing, whether it's like sentimentality, not wanting to let other people that are part of their fleet die, or it's like sheer over hesitancy around Iserlon, or sheer impulsiveness and disagreement with your allied commanders again around Iserlon, or like a faked uh, sense of urgency again with Iserlon. Like there's a lot of elements where like even these commanders that get shown up, killed, etc., they have good reasons for operating this way, and you can totally see someone who's like otherwise reasonable or whatever operating in that manner. Like the only character that's really unreasonable is Prince Braunschweig. Like he is just totally nuts. So, and one thing I'll say about this show is not pro aristocracy, like not in the slightest. It basically it's balanced enough to show that yes, indeed, there are regional lords inside the empire who are good lords, and it'll show that much.
Yes, yes. I
But
was yeah. I mean, I didn't like pick up on his first the first time around, but I was very glad to see that they actually there were actually like scenarios that played out where like the people actually liked their like lords.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The thing is, like the show is very historically literate, and like the empire is very much playing into the idea of like France pre the French Revolution, and you saw that with like the very few nobles uh, in the French Revolution that hadn't gone off to Versailles like 70 years before and still lived on the land with the peasants as they were supposed to. They were still pretty popular, and they were some of the people that led the peasant uprisings against against the revolution ultimately. But at the same time, there's people like, let's say, Prince Braunschweig, and the thing is, Prince Braunschweig, etc., the current nobles, they're not even treated as like a degenerated noble caste that deserves to be like swept aside at this point. The assumption is that the concept of nobility itself, and at the very start of this system, was inherently flawed, evil, etc., etc. And in fact, in one of the later episodes, Royenthal will go on a rant about how much better seizing power is compared to this, and it's like, I mean, there's something to that, but at the same time, it's not very good for stability of a country sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would agree that the biggest complaint I saw is that the older generals and commanders are incompetent in comparison
Younger.
to the galactic heroes themselves, of course. Um,
Well,
but
there's another factor you kind of have to take into it, and this is what happens in actual battles as well, is that luck does play a major factor as well. Like, were you incompetent because you made a bad call, or were you incompetent because luck was not in your favor as well? Because that could be happening. Like, you could be out commanding a battle, right, and you accidentally get like sniped in the head. Like lucky shot. So there's that also to consider as well, because here's the thing, like Reinhard and Yang Wen Li in that respect are actually quite lucky as well. Like a lot of the pieces really fall in together with them. Like Reinhard just happens to have all these competent people under his command. Yang
Yeah.
Li also has these fairly competent people under his command. Like, when it comes to quote unquote military geniuses, a lot of these guys are very lucky as well. Like with Napoleon, like in one of his major battles. Um, I forget which battle it is, but
Battle of
basically it
Malenko.
was one of those. But basically, if one of his commanders did not show up with his forces in time, he could have potentially lost. So luck is a factor that plays in these things. So you do have to take that into consideration.
yeah. I mean, I also like the war between the FPA and the Dynasty has gone on for like over 100 years, right?
150.
Yeah, like 150 years. Every in most battles or in most skirmishes, like hundreds of thousands of people are gonna die probably because of the size of these fleets. I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
it's
I
also
wouldn't
very
say hundreds.
possible.
It's pretty effective population control, if you ask me.
Yeah,
I
I
wouldn't
mean,
say so much 100,000s, considering it's galactic. I would say billions.
I
well,
think
They-
I
they-
think they
well, yeah,
said
but
that
like over
like Yang
time,
Lee's fleet, like no, I think they said like Yang Lee's fleet, the 13th fleet from the first season, was like I think 7 million total crew.
yeah, which is
And that's just,
a
and
lot
by the
of
way,
people.
that's just a and by the way, Yang Lee's fleet was that was like half a normal fleet, by the way. So
Yeah.
I'm suspecting a normal fleet in this setting probably has up to maybe 16 to 14 million
So,
active crew.
so what were you going to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
Fahrenheit?
All I'm gonna say is, with this level of losses, in many battles over such a long time, it's very possible that all the good commanders from from these aging regimes have just been like killed basically,
Yeah,
Well,
pretty
or
much.
captured.
not only have they been
That
killed, I mean,
that's also like a real possibility as well.
well, not only have they been
Well-
killed, I mean, considering both sides, you have levels of nepotism. Here in the
Yes.
Galactic Empire, it's more obvious because it's, bloodline for bloodline. But in the Free Planets Alliance, it's more or less so. My buddy is a commander. Oh, you can get promoted, buddy.
So one thing which did not, I don't think that there was a good reason given to it was how was young Winley aware about the plot, w- the that
The coup d'etat
Oberstein,
plot.
yeah, the coup d'etat plot.
Yeah.
He just knew.
In pure, it was like pure happenstance of like, well, gee, I know they're going to get into a civil war soon, so they'd probably try to do something like this. It's just like, well, gee, if they're backed up into a corner and they're going to be like screwed if they don't do something like this, so they're probably going to do something like this. But it is sort of like the coup does go off like incredibly easily, almost without a hitch, and it is kind of funny that I mean at the same time you had a big failed and poorly conceived invasion force that just failed because and shouldn't have was only called because the politicians wanted to win the next election, and you can see how that might get some people to say we're tired of this system. This isn't fucking working. Like you killed 7 million men or whatever for your fucking elections, you bastards.
Yeah. I think in that, yeah, just for more for scales, 30 million people were like mobilized for that invasion operation. It was I think they said it was the biggest sort of mobilization in the history of the galaxy, and they got um pretty much humiliated by
Yeah. th-
Reinhardt's gang.
Yeah. The numbers are kind of small, all things considered.
Yeah, because isn't like the total population for both sides like in the 100 billion range or something like that? Like,
Yeah, the impression you
Yeah.
get is that things are surprisingly spread out, and that there were actually a lot of like semi-rural planets all over the place, which is actually kind of nice. It makes
Yeah.
life
yeah, very nice
in far,
scenery.
Yeah,
far future seem rather idyllic.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like some planets only have like 3 billion people on
yeah,
them, which
exactly.
is incredibly small.
Yes.
Um, do you think that I guess knowing that even knowing that well, it was a coup orchestrated by the Empire, that young Wenli still did the wrong thing by going against the coup rather than joining it, or I don't know, I don't know,
Well,
replay.
that's the big question everyone has. Shenkov, of course, wanted him to come in, beat the coup plotters, then take over himself, and then there'd be nothing left. Um, this, I think, from Yang Wenli, just from a temperamental perspective, he'd never agree to such a thing. So, in a
Yeah, and
certain,
also the thing about that is, it's like, would Yang Li able to hold in the reins of power than say like Reinhardt does? Because I don't think Yang Li seems to be the type of guy. He's more like he'd be more of a figurehead figure. He doesn't seem to be the type of person who can like ride the reins of power that say like Reinhardt can.
that's true. He's not. He's the type of person who he definitely has political thoughts and political feelings, but he also, at the end of the day, wants to be left alone. He doesn't want to be forced to talk about these things, or forced to govern or something like that. Um, but I mean, from Yang Wenli's perspective, he'd rather uh, stick with the spirit of the system that he likes than try to subvert its spirit to save it. And I mean, to be fair to him, we see today like people who have created these systems where it's like totally subverting the spirit of it to save it, and it's a disgusting mess. It really is. Like it is more disgusting and horrible to live under than any like straightforward despotism.
It seemed a bit weird to me though that they would have these elections in the middle of a massive war, because I guess
Well,
the
Had
parallel.
elections during World War II and the American Civil War and shit like
yeah.
that. Just because there's a war going on doesn't
Yeah,
mean
I was
the
thinking,
political
yeah,
machine stops spinning.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking of how I think they basically suspended elections, at least during World War II, in Britain. But I guess that in this case
Yeah.
the battlefield is a lot more far away. So
Well, it's not only that. I mean, you're talking about a war that's going on for a century.
yeah,
Which it seems kind of pointless to just suspend elections just because of war that's centuries long, and by the way, also grows a merchant planet. It's kind of pointless to suspend all elections in that regard.
is that
Yeah, so I think another factor in this is the structure of the galaxy itself, right? Where there's two sort of flashpoints. There's one, in the Isolon corridor, and there's another at a Pheasant, right? But Pheasant is sort of cold, like no one has like attacked through there. potentially throughout the entire war. I'm not sure. And the only the only real place where you can get attacked from is this small corridor, sort of relative to your entire empire or alliance. So I mean, I think this has made the scale of the combat smaller in a way. I mean, also like fighting in space makes things a lot different because you can't just send people out with like nothing, right? You can't have like a total war situation because like fighting in space means you have to have like a very you know very a very complex production line to actually like produce like
Logistics.
battleships and things.
Yeah.
Like I think that, like the limiting factor really on either side is this sort of like production capacities, less so the
Yeah.
population.
And
So
they
with that being
continue.
said, they did talk about skill shortages
Yes.
in the alliance capital though as
I
well.
don't think
So
I don't think that they even have conscription because I believe that Julian could have not been a soldier, and the same for young Wendley.
yeah,
So yeah, um,
I mean, that is sort of like a strange, like, contradiction there. Like, you can't have it both ways. Where, I mean, maybe there is conscription, and you can just get out of it via like college, the same way as in Vietnam, because like all this is supposed to be very reminiscent of Vietnam, etc. But at the same time, if there's not conscription, it doesn't make sense that they'd be running out of people.
I mean, you can make a lot of historical parallels to stuff happening in Legend of the Galactic Heroes, but can you think of any historical parallels to the Terran cult, whatever they're called, the cult of Terra or whatever?
None that we
Uh,
can mention on this stream.
yes.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
I see.
It's very redacted examples, I'll just say that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can definitely compare them to the Illuminati and a lot of the stuff behind that.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like the idea of secret societies, I guess the issue that I have with the Terran cults, and this is getting into spoilery territory, but they're so narrow. It's like they don't have their guiding vision is to like go back to Terra for whatever reason. And but even then it's like it's all a sham, and this is all entirely just because they want more power, and it's like
Okay,
it
but
comes.
to do what? Like that was my issue with the Terran cults. Is like, okay, you want to unify humanity with Earth being the capital. For what? It's like they were so like comically evil that I'm just like,
Yes. Yes. Yeah, they're not super believable in any ways because they are they literally want to take over for takeover's sake.
That,
Like if you fleshed it out a tiny bit more, like maybe it would be more believable. But yeah, as is they are literally the Saturday morning cartoon villains
yeah.
in the rest of the
Uh,
show.
Yes.
that anime snob, in his opinion, at least, he thought that it was like a half-assed attempt at criticizing religion or something.
Yeah, a lot
It
of
is.
people have made that comparison, especially because they're like the only religion in the context of the show, which is kind of
weird.
really, yeah, very weird.
I mean,
Like, to be fair, the people in the Empire toast Odin a bunch of times, but like that's it. And there's like
And
not even,
Valhalla.
yeah, and there's not even like a passing mention of like a church or a religion or anything like that, which is very odd considering how extensive this show is. But yeah, as far as like a comparison of the of the Terran cult to like any prominent religion, like it doesn't fit.
What about Fezan? Other than the obvious one.
I mean, Fazan, I'm fine with actually. Like the idea of like this little statelet in between the middle
Middleman.
of things, which is constantly
You know, like the
having to
like
jockey for
honestly,
influence.
honestly, they kind of remind me of like the Carthaginians or like another faction that's obvious and redacted. But you know, they're a mercantile empire. Like those exist, like the Dutch or redacted or the Carthaginians. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah, the and I mean, you look at like where they're at. They're a technical carve out of the empire, but they're only going to keep their independence so long as the war keeps going on, and it's too much trouble for the empire to bring them back into the fold. So of course, these people are just going to try and stay together and try and arrange this war to go on as long as possible. Like
Yeah.
it makes perfect
yeah,
sense.
I think the closest country to it, which now I could these days I could think of, is probably Qatar, and the way that it deals with Saudi Arabia on one side and the Iranians on the other.
Well, that,
Yeah.
and I was also gonna put Switzerland.
I mean,
Mm.
it is worth noting that there is an actual city of Fazan in Libya.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
Any
yeah. I
relation to
think
it?
it used to be its own sort of like state as well, Fezzan, where Libya is today.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the Earth cult is the weakest part of the whole show.
oh, by
In
far,
this,
yes.
yeah, in these 26 episodes in particular, I think the ease of which the coup occurred is probably the weakest part as well. I mean, it's not like a it's not like show ruining or anything, but I did think it was a little bit contrived.
Yeah,
To be
it
honest.
is very much like he shows up, starts mouthing off treason, and it goes off without a hitch,
We
and it's
have
like this disgraced admiral, and it's like, okay, I guess there's like no secret service or security service or anything like that in the Free
we
Planet
have
I mean, there are, but John Truna controls them.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go.
But I mean, Job Trunick got kicked out of this, so he would have been fighting this the whole time.
So we have a few
Well,
comments.
unless we take the theory that like the Terran cult wanted this to all go off for like the end game, and so he was just going to.
I,
He got orders from the Terran cult to
the,
let it go through.
yeah, the Terran cult don't have an end game. It didn't seem like they have one. So, um,
No, their end game is to fuck around and find out. Like that's basically their end game.
yeah.
Yep.
There's some comments in the chat, so I guess I'll read them. So,
Oh shit! Really?
yeah. So
Yeah, apparently.
John Fice says, "Wow, as I wake up, I'm greeted by discussion from my favorite anime. Thank you. Well, thank you for
You're very
watching our
welcome.
stream." Ludwig Mariendorf says, "Wish something like Legend of the Galactic Heroes explore these lower to middle class counter-revolutionary groups like the peasantry, rural peoples, the kulaks, MAGA, Red America. I can't think of anything
I mean,
that
the thing is, like any show like this is always going to be focused on like whoever are the most powerful and who are most influential. Like Legend
Yeah,
of
I mean,
Galactic
this is called
Heroes.
Legend of the Galactic Heroes. You know, you are watching these epic, grander than life figures who will
Yes.
be
And I
remembered
mean,
for
it
most of
does
the
have
time.
episodes. Like there's one episode in particular where the Free Planets Alliance visits essentially this peasant planet, and there's like a great line. It's like, freedom and justice is all great, but could we have bread first?
Yes, that's a good line.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely have like some show that was devoted more to revolution and revolutionary action. But the thing is, like the show, there's one revolution in the show already, and it's very much a military coup d'état revolution from the start
Yeah,
and from the
Yeah,
top.
I think it's actually said in the show that history is more so than anything the history of like aristocracy, right? It's kind of it's more in the rarity that you'll hear about like the like peasantry or like the farmer. It's more about you know people of influence, like let's say like the monarch or a noble or a sort of interest group in a system.
Yeah.
You know.
And the other thing is
I
like
mean, if you
this.
look at some of the famous people in history, like Napoleon, he came from well, he wasn't exactly humble beginnings, but he did come from some place of influence. Julius Caesar was another example. He came from like I think a low-born like noble family. No, they were like I think poor noble family at the time. Just to tie into that.
Yeah, and that's where you oftentimes see these people who upset the apple cart. Is there people who are would be like leaders in their society, but because of circumstance, just are cast down and don't have the opportunity. I mean, the other thing is like if this show like wanted to like I don't know replay the Bolshevik Revolution or whatever, it would become more openly like partisan, and it would have to like nakedly partisan decide good or bad one way or the other. And the show doesn't want to be pigeonholed that easily.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know something like Rose of Versailles might do it for you, where you get to see both sides a little bit flatteringly and unflatteringly. So he also asks, why does it have to be a Catholic aesthetic though? Such a tired cringe trope, to be honest. Sadly, LOGH is
Well,
no
you
exception.
see, the
I'm
Japanese always
sorry.
as if
I'm sorry, you're just wrong.
Does it have a
Yes.
Catholic?
no.
No, no,
No, not
I
at
would
all.
say I would say that it does have a very old timey. I mean, you could vaguely say Catholic, but maybe I mean, mostly it's just trying to go evoke a very European feel on the Empire
Honestly,
side.
like the Empire does feel like space Prussia.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I was
they'll.
gonna say. The reason why it's quote unquote Catholic is because it's very much Europe was well, I would say still is arguably a Catholic, predominantly Catholic. So yes, in the sense it does have a Catholic aesthetic, if you could call it that.
Yeah.
It's like saying the Middle East has a Muslim aesthetic, or the East Asia has I know a Confucius aesthetic or something like that.
Mhm.
Is it like Baroque or is it like I don't know what architectural style does the Empire use? Um,
Gothic.
Space
I don't know.
Prussian, that's what they use.
Yes.
see.
No, no. Like I'm not an expert on history of architecture or anything, so I couldn't really tell you.
Mm.
I know. There's like a lot of sort
Yeah,
of
honestly,
Art
this stuff
Deco
just kind of
in the
reminds me of like
Alliance.
maybe stuff like 17 or 1800s, maybe. But like the first thing that pops in my head is literally like Space Prussia.
Hmm.
Did you get?
Yeah, this.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, the one thing to note about this show is it always has a very pulled back feel. Like it always feels like it's a documentary
Yes.
that's looking down at the subjects of that it's watching. And in some ways that's actually quite unique, and it's actually very devoted to this. And the show is very consistent in pulling off that feel between the character designs, between the use of all classical pieces and music. Everything is designed very much around that, trying to evoke that feel, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure the
Uh,
narrator himself, I'm pretty sure even the narrator himself in one of the episodes mentions like Dusty's memoirs as like a
mhm,
reference material. So
mhm.
like it literally does feel like you are watching a documentary and this guy's just like referencing shit.
But to be fair to other people who might not like this show, it does also feel a little bit like you're watching a documentary. And this isn't the type of show like, let's say, your average action shonen. It really does its best to like hype you, get you in the feel of these characters and whatnot. In a show like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, you always feel like you're one stage removed from everyone. Like
Well,
you never.
I mean,
It's.
I kind of feel like that's not exactly true because it's like if you're watching a documentary about Napoleon, then
Mhm.
you kind of like they try to kind of like even though they're trying to be neutral, they're also trying to like build him up as important, why you should care about him.
Yes.
Um, but it's not
No.
personal. But I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
That's exactly
it's
what
kind
I
of
mean.
it's kind of like someone took a like history book, sort of adapted it into a like theatrical play maybe, and then
Yes, that's
that
exactly it.
It
sort and then that's the anime basically.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's worth noting. I think this is a good way of like the way the Japanese look at this. Like there is a add-on expansion, whatever, for a video game, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 14, which throws Legend of the Galactic Heroes characters in. So it's like, gee, I wonder what famous story this show is based off of and was trying to ape.
So
Gee, I wonder why. Gee, I wonder.
did you feel like the story paid more attention to one side than the other?
No.
No, I would say it's equally represented.
Because
Even if the
I kind of did you feel felt like there were more important or memorable characters on the Empire side, and also most of
Mhm.
of the side story material which has been released for the OVA is about Reinhardt and Kircheis, and not about Wenli.
yeah, yeah. I think there is a bias in terms of quantity. You know, how much time is spent. I think there is a bias towards the Empire, but I still think
Yeah, don't the
um,
Empire usually have like the opening songs and the Free Planets Alliance have like the endings?
yeah,
Yeah. Like like the alliance's ships are shitty and they cannot land on planets.
Mhm.
I kind of feel like I don't know. It's kind of like I politically probably the author is more probably towards the alliance or something like
Oh
that. Yeah,
yes.
but
Yeah,
as
you can
aesthetics,
tell.
yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, aesthetically, yeah, the Empire dominates, which is obvious because they're like the more romantic side. They're like more don't feel like modern day. They feel more adventurous, etc. Whereas Alliance is much more normal. But yeah, you can totally tell. You can tell the exact politics of the writer of this show.
Yeah, I mean, by
Like,
the way, this is the same person who did, I think, the Heroic Legend of Arslan, something of the, I think, Legend
mhm.
of the Four Dragon Kings or something like that. It's like, this guy's a pretty prolific writer
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Japan.
and you can tell like his overall perspective is like, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool democracy supporter, but and that's basically his whole shtick through the show. Is Yang Wenli is so right. Republicanism is such a great system, but but even then, like whatever Reinhardt is shown as doing like something good, it's because he's so meritocratic or egalitarian, and he's just doing it from the top down. with nothing else to get in his way.
Yeah, I was so basically
I mean, Reinhardt in some ways is almost like the perfect autocrat. Like, you are never going to get a person like him ever. Like, he's literally the perfect autocrat. Like, he's literally the benevolent philosopher king.
yeah.
I mean,
So I was looking for negative, I guess, feedback towards the series, and one of them called the series Kemalist. I think it's a Turkish
Kemalist?
Kemalist, yeah.
Yeah, I can
What?
actually see that. Yeah, I can see that comparison.
And here he describes that as enlightened military dunking on religion and obscurantism in
Yes,
LGS. Yeah.
that is very much the case in this show. And yeah, it can feel very biased, I guess you'd say, in that regards. Like you're right. It's a show that has like no time for religion or no time for claiming that there's anything higher or
There's time
or
only for
no
war.
time for claiming that, like, let's say there are these higher laws or something like that that rulers are supposed to appeal to. It's like totally on Oberstein's side, where it's like total ruthless pragmatism, and it's like, well, at the end road of total ruthless pragmatism is just genocide the enemy populace. Like that's where it leads, and like the show has like no consideration of that. That doesn't even pop into its head.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen LOGH annoying some people on the other side of the spectrum. Like specifically, well, we haven't reached that point yet, but whatever. You know, when in the series documentary they show how
Oh
the
yes, that
decadence,
scene, yes.
yeah, led to
Yeah,
Rudolph.
they show that the long ago civilization went in
And-
decline. People lost their mores, whatever, and
It
because of
sounds
that,
really fucking familiar.
yeah,
and
and I mean,
Mm.
like, people who are raging at that, I mean, I'm sorry, that's history. Like, every historian that has pointed to like a decline of a people has always pointed to
yeah.
moral decline and a loss of belief in their own morality. So,
And
like,
fun fact,
yeah,
we're living through it right now.
yeah, okay. But point is, like, if you can debate. I mean, I don't know how you can debate about it at this point, but you can debate about whether that's not happening or not today. But if you're trying to claim that like never happens or whatever, you're just an ignoramus.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
the more hilarious criticism which I saw though was that when the same person, I can't find the comment now, unfortunately. It was somewhere on Reddit, obviously. Uh, was that like there's this episode where like Frederica is cooking for young Wenley the whole episode and trying to please him, and how this is evil. Even on the Alliance side, they are yeah they're promoting whatever Nazi thing. Uh,
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
this
will-
with pedophilia as well.
Yeah. My only message to that person is cope and seethe.
yeah.
Cope
My only message
see.
to that person is
Wenley will have
is-
his tea served to him. That won't change. So
I don't know. My only message to him is I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna post a photo of a family having dinner, and he can see while he wants.
So,
Yeah.
I was.
Listen, all human wisdom can be summed up in these words: wait and cope.
so Ludwig
I've
wanted
got,
to yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll wait for you to.
Yeah, he wanted to clarify that he meant that he thought that the cult was Catholic, not the the
No.
aesthetics.
Oh, I didn't get that impression
No,
ever.
No, I didn't as well.
Oh, Like,
Yeah.
okay, Catholicism. I mean, I guess if you're trying to compare it to like early Christianity, maybe you could stretch it, but like even then, not really, because early Christianity was like a popular movement that preached belong that preached obedience to the authorities, except when they went against God's law, and then they got
Yeah,
persecuted
I think the
for not like
Yeah, the Terran cult seems to be completely happy to try and subvert laws
no.
and try and depose
if
rulers.
if you
Yeah,
want
which the
Maybe.
Christians never did until like Constantine raised them up. There was like, don't get me wrong, they spread the word of God, etc., etc. But they weren't like this, like openly conspiratorial, and they were never trying to like be a tiny cult, but still influence everything or anything like
so,
that.
Fahrenheit. Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you going to say earlier?
Well, okay. So in terms of in terms of different takes, I watched a few episodes of this with my sister, and I want you to guess which aspect of this show she liked the most.
Man
Uh,
service.
I'm
She liked
guessing the princesses.
no. She liked the relationship between Reinhard and Cookie Ice.
Of
Mhm.
course, of
Mhm.
course.
Now, this is a problem because I don't want her to like see the end of this of these episodes because
Oh no.
she's gonna get like really sad.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's quite
Well, I
funny.
mean,
Listen,
the two.
Cookie Ice wasn't feeling well, so Reinhardt sent him to a farm. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, and
He's retired from the Emerald life. It's fine.
like we haven't been discussing it that much, but there's something really touching about the two, how much they can like totally rely on each other and just have the utmost faith in one another. They are
Yeah,
like
it's
from
very much like a Gilgamesh and Enkidu kind of relationship.
yeah, from the perspective of Reinhard, it's like this is almost like my right hand itself. And like he just both of them just, well, I'd say Reinhard more than Kirihais. Kirihais will have doubts about Reinhard and wonder if he's straying too much in the wrong direction. Uh, but he's still unquestionably loyal.
but
Reinhard just trusts Kirihais unquestioningly. And honestly, if you're willing to take like a more negative view of Oberstein, like Oberstein probably wanted Kirihais demoted because he was a threat to his power.
um,
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the only thing I think Oberstein just wanted Reinhardt to stop giving Kircheis a special treatment because it might lead to.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I don't agree with Oberstein's analysis there at all. Like everyone knows that he is his best friend since forever, that they trust one another, etc. Like no one begrudges him particularly for that. Like I got the opposite impression that like if Reinhard went out of his way to call attention to it, to like try and put Kiri Heist down in his place, like Kiri Heist wouldn't care because he's implicitly loyal, but I think it would actually start some friction amongst the Admiralty. Whereas I think the way things were, everyone understood and was fine with the way things were because they understood how close they were. Like
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
I just totally
yeah,
disagree with
I,
Oberstein on the matter.
Yeah, and considering after Kyrgios goes to the farm, everyone's like, man, if only he was here.
I think.
On both sides, by the way. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, if only if Kyrgios was here.
yeah,
Yeah, he really does make an impression. You know, I think the if Freddy Cookers was here is probably like the most famous meme to sort of come out of the show.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
You really do
I
sort of
should-
feel it though. You know, its effects on the Reinhard. There's a really sort of like great moment at the end of the series where Reinhard asks asks Anna Rose if she was like ever in love with Kirky Ice, but the scene cuts away
We don't
before
see
she
the
can give an
answer.
answer.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really good because
Mhm.
it just sort of it makes you feel like um so much potential had just been sort of killed off,
Yeah.
I mean, if
Yeah,
Kirky Ice,
you know what's funny as well is that like his last words is also what kickstarts like helped kickstart season 2 and season 3.
Yep.
Like of all the things you could have said on your before you got sent to the farm, you had to say those words.
Conquer the
Oh.
universe.
Well, it's only that, but upon rewatching whole log last year, I noticed that they did foreshadow Kier Heist going to the farm. It's very brief, but I don't remember what the character is. It's very minor. He mentions, "Oh, good men die." Curious is such a good man. It's a shame good men usually die.
Yeah, I think it was a captain of that pheasant ship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember
He'll
the
come
scene.
back later as well. Really.
Yeah, if Kirky Ice was around, like we wouldn't have 4 seasons of LOGH because they probably, I don't know, I felt like they probably would have got a priest treaty or something in somehow.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, then I'd like nuke the Terran Cold and take over Fazan. There you go. Total Empire victory.
Or maybe on the other hand, the war would have gone on longer because Kirky Ice is not as ruthless as Oberstein. Yeah. So basically, the way that I saw it was that in those cartoons where you have the devil and an angel, you know, speaking to someone. In this case, it's Reinhardt telling him what to do. Essentially, that's uh, that's what it was. So Ludwig says that new. I can't say that word.
The
Sansuchi.
new Tise. Oh, new Sansuchi. Yeah. Or,
The
no, yeah.
the Kaiser's residence is a reference to Sansuchi without care, I think. A summer palace of Frederick the Great of Prussia, 18th century Baroque architecture. So that's what he thinks it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah. I knew it. It is Baroque after all.
Okay.
Yeah,
I th-
Neukammern is part of the Sanssouci Palace in Sanssouci Park, Potsdam. They were constructed for Frederick the Great of Prussia.
Okay.
Yeah,
Other than
just a bit on the music, right? I think what carried a lot of this show was the use of the classical music
Oh yeah.
and a few of the original tracks they sort of sprinkled out around. I thought that the episode with the best music was the episode where the Kaiser's wife um she plots to kill Anna Rose. I
Mistress,
thought,
yes.
yeah, I
Mistress.
thought, yeah. Sorry, his mistress. Thank you. I thought the music in that episode. I didn't notice it the first time, but the music in that episode was very, very good. I thought it matched the tone excellently. I don't think I didn't really come across an episode where the music fits more perfectly. Honestly, but yeah, it really does help sort of lend a grandeur to the entire show as well. It's
Yeah,
very good.
which is entirely what it's going for. And like, if you watch the new one, the new Tisa,
Yeah.
Thesa, yeah, it totally lacks that, and it constantly feels like there's just something missing there. Like it's really quite the contrast.
you think
Mm.
it's
Yeah,
the music?
we actually can we talk about a bit of the remake for a bit because I've
Sure.
watched a decent amount of it. Um, I don't really like the remake too much. Like aside from the lack of classical music, is that like they make the technology seem way too advanced and it kind of takes away the greenness. Like instead of like fighting each other in like power suits with axes, they're battling each other with like mechs and shit. And
Yeah,
like I
and
remember
they're
seeing a
very
clip where they're using rail guns and crap like that. And yes, this would make sense. You know, if you have spaceships, you would have mechs and all this type of shit, right? But like I don't know, it kind of took out the grittiness, you know, because like
Yes.
you have people flying spaceships, they're boarding each other with power suits and axes, like pretty metal.
Yeah, and it's not even like they're super baroque looking mechs. It's not like they look like something out of MD Geist or something. They're just like very boxy, slightly angular mechs that look like they're out of Votoms or something. And it's like, okay, is this realistic? Probably. Does this fit the aesthetic this show is going for? Or should be going for? Not in the slightest.
Yeah, there are some kind of unusual things, where technology wise, looking back at the show, but that's only because um, technology has changed since then. I mean, for example, the famous gigantic like laptop that Kirkios uses, which is just this great big
Yeah.
slab of
I kind of like
of
how the
metal.
technology is very
Um,
futuristic 70s technology.
yeah, and computers are still these like huge machines.
Mhm.
And they're sort of using paper and like mail systems as well,
I
out
think
in
that's
space.
I think that's
But
explained because during the war they've been able to decode each other's communications. So they use letters because you can't hack a letter.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I think that it is kind of to this show's strength because it gives it this sort of timeless quality. I mean, like
Yes.
paper is always going to be useful, in a way. Whereas if like you come up with some sort of like space age like solution, it's gonna be dated. It's gonna get dated.
So another one of the positives
Yeah,
is
also the battles seem to use a lot less like tactics. Like in one of the battles, like Yang Li uses like railgun ships and shit like that, and I'm like, wait,
Mhm.
what?
Yeah, that's the other really hard critique I can throw at this show is oftentimes these battle sequences in the show, they can happen so fast or sometimes so ill explained that it feels like it comes down to, oh, well, he's the main character, so he's going to win. And there's a famous like joke pick of it's like, oh, how do you win a battle? Like, oh, you make a semicircle, just like Yang Wenli. All these other people who can't make semicircles, they're all gay. They can't match it. And it's like, it's a joke, but it's kind of half true. And it's like, but there's nothing good about a semicircle at all. And like this show can like be like sometimes it'll actually do tactics very well, but oftentimes like it is rushing through things so quickly that it's like, well, why did he win? I don't know.
it
Or
thematically
or
makes
like
sense. So that's why I won. I really didn't care about the tactics, to be honest, that much on this rewatch.
I think it is actually like a pretty big detriment and pretty big downside of the show. Like even like with like I remember one episode where uh what what's his name Makats came to like Prince Braunschweig's defense, like launched all his forces, and it was like very unclear uh I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
why Prince Braunschweig's forces were losing so much, other than he was Prince Braunschweig, and like you see that all the time in this show. Like not always. Like let's say Iserlon. Iserlon, everything is totally justified. Everything totally makes sense. But when it comes to like an open fleet to fleet battle, it can be rather testing.
Yeah, I think there's kind of like a trade-off that's going on, right? Like if you go into too much detail,
Mhm.
then like the episode is going to need to be like way longer, right? It's going to be like it's going to be like a 40-minute long episode where we talk about like specific fleet formations and stuff.
I don't think it even needs to be that. Like, I feel like if they just devoted 1 or 2 more minutes to it, it would be fine.
I mean,
Yeah, I do think there are times where the pacing is a little bit too fast, and it sort of
ha-
brushes over the combat parts.
Fahrenheit.
But
Have
I
you
don't know,
seen?
like
Have you
I
seen
think
the
it's
movie?
sorry.
The prequel. Have you seen the prequel? Given that we're talking about the length
Yes.
not being enough to explain the tactics, did you feel like if you have seen the movie, did you think that the tactics were adequately explained in the movie, which I think retells the first few episodes, right?
Well, it comes before the first episode.
Okay,
It's like
okay.
right before, basically.
Mhm.
I
Sorry,
think you're
sir.
confusing it with the other film, which is retelling the first and second episode with, I guess, higher production value.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, there is another one, isn't there?
there's another
Yeah, I
one.
mean, I thought the strategy was explained quite well in that in the prequel film. But that entire film was just sort of battle strategy, basically. Um, it was well, there was like way less focus on the domestic front, if any, you know.
Yeah.
Um, this is subjective, but I kind of feel like the character designs in the remake are kind of soulless compared to these ones,
Yes, they are.
They
Yes.
are.
and
In
also
fact,
the
the whole
characters look
remake is
younger
soulless.
as well, too young, I thought, in the remake.
Yes, everyone's made the comparison that in the remake they look like bas- sports basketball characters from a sports anime,
Yeah,
and like it just feels really unfitting because you've got like these sort of like modelish characters like on every side, and it's like
I
okay, like a couple characters like that, yeah, sure. Every single one, it just doesn't seem to fit the tone.
It
Like,
doesn't make any sense. I mean, especially when you have like guys. I mean, like in the show, right? You have some of these people like these big burly guys,
hmm
like that one like High Admiral they fight during the Revolution. Like that's a big guy. Like he's also pretty
yeah,
ugly too. You know.
so
yeah,
Um.
Evil Florida on our server, he has a theory which you might have heard that all space
Oh
opera
yeah,
anime is actually shoujo anime, and that so maybe you could explain the character designs a little bit with that. Certainly, I can see even in the OVA, I can. Or do you not see that at all, you guys?
Um. I would say for Reinhard and Kikuyo, it's like I see a little bit of it. Like they do have a little bit of like the shoujo male kind of traits that you'll see. Like they do have a little bit of that because like when it comes to like shoujo manga, like especially the well written ones, like you do have this kind of like brooding, kind of angsty kind of shit, or these male friends that like I don't know, like some their relationship is like slightly homoerotic. I don't know, but you do that does come up every now and then in shoujo. But I would say like for the rest of the characters, I think like most of them are pretty like normal, or you got like people like Walter, who's like pretty Chad, pretty masculine guy, like slaughters like 100 people and then 100 people and then fucks their wives afterwards. Like
Yeah,
it's pretty based.
I think it's also that like there's a lot of shoujo with like with also like a European kind of aesthetic. Like princess and stuff like that, like
Yeah,
generic European empire setting. In the court.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's some of
yeah,
that too.
yeah. I think some like there's plenty of characters in the show that remark how attractive a Cookie Ice is. For example, he's kind of taller than Reinhard, which kind of gives the impression that he's also probably like above average height as well. So I don't know, like I think they probably did go out of their way to make Cookie Ice and Reinhard like particularly attractive, and it wouldn't surprise me if the designers took inspiration from like Sojo, whatever it's
Yeah.
called.
Yeah.
Who was
Gojo.
the character?
Sojo. I can't say it.
Who was the guy at the end of like Mobile Suit Gundam who was battling with Bright over Mirai's affection? Who was that guy again?
I forget.
I'm blanking on his name too, but Shenkop very much feels like an echo of him, and I know that character was very, very popular with the female audience of Gundam.
Are you
So
talking
Yeah,
about?
I know what we're talking about.
Is it
Fuck.
is it the oh Slager Law?
Slager Law, yes, yeah. Shenkop feels like a distant echo of that character.
I was gonna say Shankov feels like if you take a romantic like story and you put in an '80s action hero in the mix.
Hmm
Yeah, based.
Okay. Any other characters we want to talk about? Um, Job True.
The one thing I'll
Yeah, go on.
the one thing I'll note, which is kind of funny, is and this is like the glory of the fan subbers, and like this show, part of the reason this show is famous is the fan subbers who did like a great job. Like there are certain times where like they don't know how to translate something, it comes out sort of weird, and like it's a fan sub, that's fine. But what they did is they made the dialogue so laconic, number one, that they made it
Yes.
so memorable and so quotable, and that's why you see these pictures like just quoted from the dialogue all over the place.
The
And like
smaller and more
the
powerful government is easy to manipulate.
and like the official subtitles just like don't
Yeah.
rival it at all.
Unfortunately,
The-
I think that
Yeah.
a lot of
I think
sites, and such as Nine Anime, let's just say it.
yeah, that one.
That's right.
Yeah, we watched the same subs. By the way, yeah, our subs were really cool, weren't they? Not only did they change color, they also changed the size as well, which was
What?
very impressive. And sometimes they changed location on screen. Like if there was like a
You
song
are aware I
playing
did link you
or
guys like a
characters were
decent torrent you
singing,
could use.
they would well, yeah, I know, but like I like reading like because the advantage of streaming anime sometimes is that you get to read the comments.
Mhm.
So I can't say the comments I saw were particularly helpful. But it is quite funny like seeing like the absolute like disaster some subs are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very funny. Like when there was like a song like where characters were like singing the national anthem, they would like display like the text in like the middle of the screen. It was so good.
I mean, you think you had it bad, like in the torrent that I got, which is the one with most downloads on Nya. Like the default subs would take up the whole screen. Like, yeah, you couldn't see anything. The subs would take up
Yeah.
the whole screen. So
The
basically just avoid the high dive subs. And
Yes.
I can't remember
Well,
what
just use the torrent I linked up above.
yeah,
Ye-
Reactor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Reactor is the one on. Yeah, it includes the original Central Anime subs, and Central Anime is the fan sub group that subbed it
Yes.
over a decade ago.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
other
If
thing I was
the
going to mention
if
about
the
the subs from Central
go
Anime
on.
that makes them so nice is there's a lot of fucking characters in the show. There's a lot of fucking characters. There's a lot of ease of getting overwhelmed and getting lost. So what the Central Anime does is every time a character shows up again, it's like boom, name on screen. And that
Yes.
wasn't originally there.
Yeah,
That is
it's not there.
something they added.
And
And like it's actually a very nice like stopgap measure, and it very much helps the show flow.
Don't they also
Yeah,
show the names of the
yeah,
ships as well sometimes? I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes.
I think that might be pulling from Japanese, little Japanese text down there. I don't really know.
Yeah, if the subtitles are that like pierce yellow color, then you're watching the right subs. Yeah.
Yes.
Either piss yellow or cyan.
Yeah.
Or,
I
al-
haven't actually seen cyan subs yet. I'll look out for the cyan subs.
I mean, at least it's not the Wang subs, so you know.
I would say another character I sort of like is Binfield, mainly because of the fact he is very a simple character, but I kind of like how his tactic is just attack, attack, attack.
Yeah,
Oh
he's like
yeah,
a chihuahua.
oh, that's insulting to him. No, no, I hate chihuahuas.
But
But
he's like attack, attack, attack. No, 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 no. Rough him.
yeah, the thing about him is he
He's a
is so,
sledgehammer, yes.
yeah, he's a sledgehammer, and he's so straightforward in his attitude, mindset, and the way he operates that you can't help but like him a little bit. It's like you know exactly who he is and what you're going to get from him, and he's good at it.
um, I I guess we could talk a little bit. What I don't know if it was that
I
significant, but
think what's kind of left. There there was an introduction of one of my favorite characters. And she is called something. She is called Hildegard von Mariendorf.
yeah.
I think I think she was like I found her to be like a very sort of switched on character. She's able to sort of read the waters of what's going on in the empire, and she
Mhm.
makes very sound and strategic decisions. And
Yeah.
at the end of the series, she's put herself and her family in a very good place and politically as well.
Yeah, to say it my
In a way, she's kind of Carrie Heiss's replacement.
you
Yes,
could say
yes.
that.
I would also suggest that Mittermeier is also he also somewhat becomes a replacement as well for Kirkios.
Yeah.
Yeah, the galaxy itself sort of becomes Kirkia's replacement a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. What was
Yeah.
yeah,
On the other side, there's Jessica
exactly. Yeah.
Edwards, who's
Mhm.
the anti-war campaigner, but she loses her husband in like a early episode. I think she loses it. I think she loses her husband in like the first episode or something.
Yeah,
Yep.
that or
And
episode 2.
sorry, yeah, episode 2, and she becomes very sort of disgruntled with the Free Planets Alliance, especially with Job tuning
Yeah,
in.
there's a very nice thing going on there where there's this unkindled romance between her and Yang. There's like this constant
Yeah,
looming bit of what could have been between them. And like once with Yang's best friend and her wife dead, like they start to rekindle something, but they're both kinda don't push down that road, and then she dies in what is essentially supposed to be like their version of like the Kent State massacre. Like
yeah,
the other thing about this show is it's trying to be a replay of the 60s in America on the Free Planets side. At the same time, a lot of the granularity of that time period, be it racial issues, be it the be it the enemy infiltration of like protest movements and whatnot, or other stuff like that. is just like not really delved on and doesn't exist in this. And it's like it's not technically a
Issue.
flaw in the show because like the show can introduce or not introduce what it wants. But at the same time, you know that the show is trying to compare this to like the 60s and whatnot. And you know that like back then there was a little bit more stuff going on and it's giving you a simplified take.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
In the scene where oh god, I think I where oh god, I forgot her name. Like, how on earth could I like know her name like 1 minute and then forgot it either?
Hilda?
Hildegard von Mariendorf.
No,
Jessica?
God.
Fred
Yeah, anti war lady.
Jessica Edwards.
Thank you, Jessica Edwards. Jesus Christ, I apologize. So in the actual scene where she dies in the stadium, I
Mhm.
thought that that entire part is played out very very well. Like I thought it was
Oh yeah,
quite
it's
realistic.
great.
How like a peaceful protest can sort of descend into violence.
Mhm.
So quickly if there's like one bad actor at some point, or if signals are like misaligned. Um, but yeah. I mean, like the stadium incident was a real tragedy that happened in the series. And
Mhm.
Yang only really, I mean, he's upset about it, but he sort of gets over it quite quickly.
No,
It seems, but it does sort of stay with him because he mentions it every now and again.
I
When
don't know.
he's sort of like
Ever since that
frustrated.
incident, like his alcohol intake just goes up. So
I got the, like my from what I remember, he basically says "I see" and shuts himself up for a while when he first hears the news. Like I think it affected him very very greatly. Was my impression.
Yeah. I think
Like
he's definitely sad, right? Because Jessica was his like his like crush, for such a long time.
mhm.
Um, there's like you can definitely sort of feel the loss there. I mean, there is somewhat of a parallel between Yang and Jessica, as there is with like Reinhard and Cookie Ice in a way. Though it's not like the same, but each each of like the main each the main guys on either side lose someone close to them kind of at around the same period.
Yes, yes.
And you can sort of see how they both deal with it, which is kind of interesting. um but yeah,
Yeah.
like Yang doesn't really, he's definitely upset, but he doesn't let it sort of affect him, I don't think, really afterwards.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Well,
like decide to become like dictator because of it or whatever, you
Well,
know.
no. I mean, Young's not the type. But Yang is like he very much does shut down for a little bit because of it, and I don't think it ever totally leaves him. Like he's not the type of person that feels things very strongly, but that made him feel about as strong as he can. He was very I think in his own way he was quite distraught about it.
well, he's also distraught in the sense because Jessica's kind of like the last link between him and his best friend.
Yeah. And the last link, I guess you could say, to his life before he got totally ensconced in the service.
Can you recall any characters with Chinese names other than Yang Wenli?
Nope.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Uh,
But I guess the only thing I can think of is not really the names, but the whole like series is basically Romance of the Three Kingdoms in space.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it certainly is. But yeah, there's no direct like race is just not a thing in this show at all. Like everyone on the Empire side is European, and then most people on the Free Planets Alliance side are like European, but you've got like a couple carve outs from like black or Asian or whatever, and like that's it. So like you get the impression, and to me, this was actually the impression a lot of people had in like the '80s. No one's cares. No one's going to care. Whatever still exists just exists by happenstance. People just don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess it's worth noting that this is not an original anime. It's based on a series of novels. I don't think it's a light novel because it doesn't have any illustrations.
Actually, I have the first two on my bookshelf.
Does it have any anime
No,
style
no,
illustration? No, so the character
it doesn't have any illustrations. No, it doesn't. It's just a book. Basically, they're just books.
Did you read it?
I was going to, but I got embroiled in game development over the over this week, so
Yeah.
no, I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, I've seen like I've read bits and pieces of it, and I do think it's one of those situations where the adaptation is probably superior and like
Yeah,
makes tiny changes which are nicer. Like the big change everyone knows about is in the destruction of I forget the tiny planet that Obert Stein lets die. They change it so that rather than Reinhardt approving it, Reinhardt defers in the anime, and Oberstein just goes over his head and doesn't tell him that it's about to go off.
Westerland, that's the name of the planet. I think.
Westerland, yes, the Westerland incident.
yeah.
Yeah,
More
and
like
I think that's a
Wasteland now.
positive. I think that's a positive change, and there's a lot of like small adaptation changes like that overall. Like it's pretty faithful adaptation for what I've seen videos on, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like every change or decision they made seemed to be like the absolute right one to make things more compelling.
And I don't think that the novels go any further than the anime. I think that they ended around the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. The biggest complaint I saw about novels is the quality of the translation. That's kind of it, really. The novels themselves, I don't know how successful they were. They didn't leave as big as an impact as the obviously as the anime adaptation has. So yeah, like they're um they're like decent. Obviously I've like barely started, so maybe I'll have a different impression myself once I've actually read them properly, rather than like
I,
look at them like for like a
Yeah.
week and not do anything about them.
I don't think I need to explain what Westerland is trying to be like a parallel to, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
That nukes.
Yeah, I mean it's literally nukes, so yeah, it can't be anything else. Um, yeah, I won't waste your time asking whether you're pro or anti whatever about it. So looking at the first,
You know, I thought it was absolutely morally justified to nuke uh, the military target known as Hiroshima.
yeah, I mean, what do you it's what do you think, Heracles? It's total war, isn't that right? So
I mean, I actually think it was a bad move because, like, people are going to. I've actually pointed this out. Like, Reinhardt is fucking lucky that Fazan and the Terran cult never chose to, like, look into this incident and use him against him because they could have totally used this to, like, really undermine Reinhardt's ability to rule and all that. And even as is, it's like this persistent rumor that people seem to know about. And it's like, okay, you win the war with fewer people, but you're also undermining your status to rule as well.
Yeah, yeah, and even sort of you know also affects his relationship on the personal level with Cookie Ice, and
Oh yeah.
it sort of sours that
Yeah, I
their
I,
last moments.
I think
It kind of
I think really the only big worry that there was that the conflict would drag on so long that the alliance would get its shit together and come back before the civil war is over. But I guess by that point it was already over anyway. Um, so looking at this uh, s- the first series alone, do you have any thoughts? And what's your rating, Albania Man?
Well, I would say for the first season, I would say it's a very good introduction. It kind of introduces the major players and introduces the world that it's exhibiting. I would say it's not my favorite season, but I would still say it's very strong. So I would give it 9. Well, I give the whole series a 9, but this one in particular a 9.
Okay, what about you, Fahrenheit?
um I think this series was made to be part of something bigger. It's a introduction to the larger story. It has technical problems. There's like an entire episode that is just a recap episodes, you know, at the end there as well. I think I would give it a 8 out of 10, but it's still very very good. I got very engaged. It felt like I was watching something epic, which was nice.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm done. I'm done with my lunch, so I guess it's time to end the stream as well. What about you, Heraclius? What did you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely everyone like who likes anime or who likes this type of show like deserves to watch it because it is so unique. It's like the only other thing I can think about this similar to this is something like not even War and Peace. And frankly, I'm not a big fan of like the Sergei Bondarchuk War and Peace. I wasn't taken in by it, but like the only thing I can consider comparable to this is the Chinese Three Kingdoms adaptation, like the recent one in 2010. Like if you like this, you should go watch that because you're going to enjoy that. If you don't like the show, hey, you don't like it. Like the if you don't like this show from like I don't know episode 10, whatever. Like this is a show that's very consistent throughout. Like if you don't like the show, you're not going to like the show, and it's not for everyone. There are people who are going to consider it a little dry, consider it a little bit too obviously played out in terms of like you know the direction in which things are going and you feel a little bit removed from the characters. And stylistically, that's where it's going. You have to deal with that, and either it goes with you or it doesn't.
Yeah,
So
I would suggest that that the 3 episode rule applies to this anime. Just because episode 3 is very strong. Um,
yeah, so I'm not the only one. Earlier I said that like I wasn't even aware at first when I first watched this that there were separate seasons, and on Mal, I just noticed that like they don't like have a separate page for season 1, 2, 3, and 4. They just have one for the whole OVA. Maybe it's because
Hmm.
it's an OVA, I guess,
Hmm.
rather than a TV series. So one complaint which I did not see when looking for negative reviews, maybe you did, but I did not, was the animation. I did because it's an old show, and usually, like when it comes to these old shows, like they will add like a comment, like even when they're recommending it, like like you have to keep in mind, like it's an old show, so the colors are not so pretty or something. That wasn't there for this. And I looked at the recommendations, and they're recommending Code Geass is the top all
Yeah.
recommended anime.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
long running like comparison where like back when this show was getting fan sub, like there was constant shade being thrown by Legend of the Galactic Heroes people to Code Geass people. So this goes back a very long ways. I I like plot wise, okay, they're marginally similar, especially when you consider like Lelouch and Reinhard, but like stylistically, they are totally 180 from one another, and I appreciate that. Like,
Yeah.
Code Geass is a far more personal character show.
Yeah. I wouldn't even like try to like sort of compare them. Like they're such a different
Yeah, I mean,
experience.
one of them has got Pizza Hut commercials, so obviously it's better. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they both have their charms.
I remember when we had that discussion about Code Geass Fahrenheit, you said that like you just didn't find Lelouch as um like how should I say he convincing as a leader or a ruler of the world or something like that.
Yeah. I just didn't think he was like charismatic enough. Though he did have like magical mind control powers, so that probably
Yes.
explains it.
Yes, that explains it.
But I would have liked if he was also like charismatic as well.
Like Reinhardt, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It would have just felt like more like natural rather than it's sort
I
of
mean,
feeling like this like teenager has taking control.
I
how?
mean, and
Yeah, go on.
well, I was gonna say, I mean, plus Code Geass is more of a blockbuster, whereas the Legend of Galactic Heroes is, I would say, it's more of a Greek epic, if you'd call it.
Hmm. Um. I mean, I guess yeah. Code Geass is more rule of cool. Um. Okay. Enough shitting on Code Geass. So yeah, I forgot
No,
what I was going to say. Um. What are the other
In
recommendations?
Code Geass's credits, Callan's breasts are very nice.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I I don't know. I usually hear people talking about something else of hers, but when she's in the mech, the camera tends to point at something.
yes.
But I think there's a civilizational divide between ass men and breast men, and I fall in the more civilized category.
Right, right.
Anyway,
Yeah. So I guess the last thing we could talk about could be or maybe we don't need to like those things which a server had to say about Legend of the Galactic Heroes, that some of the weirdest criticisms which I've seen of the series, that well actually there's that Julian is a Shota or something. Yeah,
What?
and
Oh yeah, I
What?
saw that. It was dumb. We'll
What?
say no more of it.
say no more, say no more.
speaking of that sort of sphere, I saw some very good criticisms when it was talked about in AM's server,
Mhm.
apostolistic majesty.
Apostolic Majesty.
Yes, yes, apostolic majesty. Thank you. Um, where they basically, I think they repeated a lot of the same points that we heard here, where it was sort of anti religion or sort of ignored religion.
Mhm.
It's sort of was more it was anti aristocracy, etc. Though
Yeah, it is
you know,
blindingly anti-aristocracy. It like it hates them with a passion.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and
There was also criticism. There was also criticism I saw of the final series, which I thought was fair as well. So I don't know. I think it depends where you go in these spheres for your anime criticism.
Yeah, yeah. I
But I mean, you also have to consider when this show came out, like when it got fan sub. This was like back in 2010, became popular, and for most people, a lot of people that saw it, including me, this was like the first time you'd ever seen a show say, "Hey, you know what? Despotism can be good."
I mean,
Uh,
if you want a full on like the Empire is good, go and watch Crest of the Stars. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Although I've seen some people that still side with the the other side, anyways. But I mean, I don't. I think they're pricks that literally started the war, so it's like, fuck them.
Yeah, yeah. Another recommendation, if you want, I don't know why you would want it, but if you want like, uh, oh, or like earlier, like somebody, I can't remember his name, Ludwig or something, was saying that he thought that the cult was Catholic. But if you want to see like an anime or a light novel which is trying to dunk on Catholicism or whatever, then Spice and Wolf is, the one about economics is probably the one which came to mind to me, because the church
Yeah,
there are sort of the villains.
a
And
little bit. Like general Nasuverse stuff also has the church in it, and the Nasuverse and Hellsing both do neat stuff with the Catholic Church, where they're sort of like antagonistic, but they're not direct villains. They just sort of view them as like Knights Templars who are maybe a little overzealous, but there's a reason they act this way.
Yeah, if you read the Berserk manga, it's uh, it's a little bit anti
Oh yeah,
Catholic.
especially the first arc.
Mm.
well, he does get a Catholic waifu, so uh, anyway, kind of, yeah, we're kind of going a bit off topic now. Um,
Yes, yeah. 'Cause
um,
yeah, another recommendation is obviously, of course, Attack on Titan. You know,
Well, I
uh,
was gonna say, oh yeah, Heracles mentioned that there is a Chinese adaptation called Three Kingdoms.
Also, if you want to see
yeah,
something of like which is sort of a parody, I guess I like that. There's no evidence to suggest that like it's an actual parody, but the responsible Captain Tyler, um, yeah,
yeah.
it's
That's good.
I mean, I don't. I mean,
Yeah, the irresponsible Captain Tyler. I think it'll be a good idea to watch that sort of after you watch like a few space anime. You know, see, like you kind of know what it's like. Um, what what he's parodying. Like
did we talk
yeah.
about
Anyway,
did we talk about Tyler?
We did.
Yes, we
you
did.
I
did,
was
you did.
there.
Okay,
I wasn't there for it though. I
I was
left
there.
like a comment
I see. That's sad. Yeah.
expressing my thoughts on Tyler.
Okay. Okay. The top three recommendation is Mahoka. Oh God. Um,
What? No,
Never heard of it.
no.
And by
Fuck that.
Heracles
End
is
the stream.
reacting.
It's over.